All right, hello, and welcome back to my 2.5, 2.5 sorry, wrong tutorial. My 2D Left 4 Dead to clone in Unity tutorial. Today we are going to be doing health and health kit items. So in this case, we've got pain pills and a first aid kit. And if we press Q, we can pick them up, and we'll scroll through, and we'll see that we've now got the health kit and the pain pills. And if we hold down the right mouse button, we will be able to use them. So you'll see that on that player health script in the bottom right, we'll see that the value went down, and then we don't have any pain pills because we used them, but since we're at 100 health, it doesn't actually show it. So yeah, so let's go over how we did that. Okay, so the main part of this episode will be focused around this player health script. So basically, it just controls everything to do with the health. We've got two public integers to start us off with. First off, we've got just health, which is the permanent health, because in Left 4 Dead you start out with 100 and then you get hit by zombies, that decreases. Then you get health kits, which will regain you permanent health. Or if you take something like pain pills, you'll get temporary health, which acts basically the same but will decrease over time. So that is why we have both health and temporary health here. And likewise, we have a float here called temporary health timer, and basically every second you will lose one temporary health until you have no temporary health. Likewise, we have another float called heal up timer. This is basically just a timer to say how long it takes you to use pills or healthcare or whatever. Then we've got 4 booleans here to say what item the player currently has. So in this case, we've got has health kit, has pain pills, and if the pills are equipped, and if the health is equipped. We don't really need any kind of proper item class because there are so few items in Left 4 Dead. Because I'm just going for Left 4 Dead 1 with this tutorial series to keep it simple. But so we've got health kit, painkillers, pipe bomb, Molotov. That's it. So 4 items. So we don't need a defined item class. Just having booleans, or if you were wanting to stretch to some of the stuff in Left 4 Dead 2, you might want to have an enum to set it or whatever. But yeah, no need for a separate item class. We just need a boolean to state what item we have. Next, we have a public game object called the health object and the pills object. This is just the visual of the actual pills or health kit in the player's hand. So I'll just show you that. So we'll see our character, we'll go to person, and on our right arm, I believe, we'll see that we have a health kit and pain pills attached to the arm. And my Facebook is dinging at me because it's an arsehole, so I'm just going to quit that. Yeah. Christ, it's all going off. Sorry. Yeah, turn it off. So yeah. So they're all attached to the hand. So when we move around, it'll be the same. And when we use the health kit, we don't need to destroy it. We just deactivate it, just for simplicity's sake. And they are assigned to the player health script on the parent object of the player. That's about that. Where else? And we also have a player weapon controller. Find references. Yeah, which is just used for disabling the current weapon when we equip a health kit or painkillers by scrolling through the items. Okay, so first off, in the start, basically what we do, we just words failing. We just deactivate them because at the start the player won't have any pills or health kits on them. They usually just pick them up at the start of the level. And we just initialize the player weapon controller. My focus my burning for a second, sorry. Yeah. So next up on update, we have a method to cap the health of the player. So this basically just makes sure that health doesn't exceed 100, or the combined health of both the temporary health and the permanent health doesn't exceed 100. So if we go to declaration, basically if the get sum of health is more than 100 And while Get Some of Health is more than 100, basically we've reduced the health, with the temporary health being the priority. So that's get reduced. And then if we're still above 100 and we have 0 temporary health, we start reducing the health of the, what's the word? The normal health, that's the one. Sorry. And likewise, if our temporary health is more than 0, we call this reduced temp health method, which basically just counts down a timer that's a second, and every second it will reduce the temporary health by 1 until the temporary health reaches 0. Okay. Alright, so next up we have the pickup item. This pickup item method, which isn't called from the actual player health script, it's called from the player input script, just for keeping all our inputs in one place so it's easy to manage. And basically what we're doing is, if we don't have a health kit, we go through each of the game objects in this item monitor.me health kits. Basically, item monitor is just a new script we have on this game controller. And what we do here is we have a singleton, just to have a reference to it, and it has basically 2 lists which will store all the health kits in the level and all the pills in the level, and we initialize them on awake. And likewise, just so we know what items are health kits and what are pills, we have 2 blank scripts here that are pain pills and health kits respectively, and they will add the game object they are attached to the appropriate list. And the reason, and what we do is, and they add them to the list in the start method, because the item monitor stuff, like the singleton and the lists, are initialized in awake. So if we add these items to that list in the start function, we don't have to mess around with the script execution order. So that just saves us a bit of time. So we go through all these items, and if there is a one of these items, so either pills or a health kit, within 2 meters of us, we've removed that item from the list of health kits or pain pills. We destroy the item and we set the boolean has health kit to true, and then we just return because we're done. We picked up the item, we don't need to do anything else. And because if we were to continue iterating through the list, it would return an error because we've modified the list with this line here. And it's basically identical for the pain pills, except we use a different list and set different booleans. Next up, we got deal damage. Similarly to how when the health is capped, this will prioritize reducing the temporary health first, and then if so basically if temporary health is more than or equal to the damage being dealt, then we just reduced the temporary health by the damage. But if, say, it's not, so if, say, it was equal to or less, the temporary health was equal to or less than the damage, we'd set the temporary health to 0 and then subtract the difference, or what we couldn't take from the temporary health, from the actual health. So by reducing, so we calculate what needs to be gone from the permanent health here by just subtracting temporary health from the damage dealt, and we set temporary health to 0, and then health is reduced by the damage to full health variable. Next up, just a public int to get the sum of the health. So we return it health plus temp health. This is used in one place, well, no, a couple of places. One is in the movement script for basically we will change the player's movement speed based on how much health they have, as they do in Left 4 Dead. So if the total sum of our health is less than 50, we reduce the player's speed by 1.5. But if the player's health, is less than 20, then we reduce the speed by 3.0. But I've just noticed that this is the wrong way around, because if we called this, and even if the player's health was less than 20, it would never get called because we would be meeting the condition for is less than 50. So if we do 20 and 50, so we just need to reset these. So 3.0f and 1.5f. Yeah, so that has to be that way around. And back to player health. So yeah, so next up we have a cap health method, which basically just makes sure that we don't go over 100 health. So if get sum of health is more than 100, or while we are at more than 100, we reduce the temp health if the temp health is more than 0, and otherwise we just reduced health. I think I've gone over that before. Yeah, I did when I was talking about update. Sorry. Yeah, that's the method there. And then again, I've done the reduced temp health timer again, so I won't repeat myself. Heal up. This is the method called when the player has health kit equipped, and they are like holding down the right click to use the item. What it does, it counts down the heal up timer, and if the heal up timer is less than or equal to 0, then we use the health kit and reset the heal timer. And likewise, we have an identical one for the pills, except we use pain pills and reset the heal timer there. Heal timer reset just resets the timer to 4. And use health kits basically just adds. Basically in what is it? In Left 4 Dead, the health kits will never get you up to full health. They will add like some value that like is based on your like how much the difference is between 100 and your current permanent health, not including the temporary health that you have from like pills and such. So what we do here is we basically just add to the health mathf.round to ints the health difference, so it'll be 100 minus your current permanent health, and we multiply that by 0.9, and then we set has health kit to false because we don't have it anymore, and then we set health object to not be active because we've used it, so we don't need to have it, and then we get the player input script and call this reset item held method. This basically just returns us to having the pistol in our hand. And likewise for use pain pills, we have something slightly different. Basically, we've got a value of pills here, and we go while, have a while loop to increase the health. So while the get sum of health is less than 100, or the value of the pills is more than 0, then we just increase the temporary health and decrease the value of the pills, and that'll basically just give us a temporary health boost. And then like we did with the health kit, we set the pills object to be inactive, and we set has pills to false, and we call the reset item held to set us back to having the pistol in our hand. Next up, two methods, set health kit and set pain pills. These just like set the either health kit or the painkillers to be the current object in the hand. So what we do here is we call the disable current weapon from the player weapon controller. Disable current weapon basically just sets the in-hand weapon to be inactive. So in-hand.gameObject, that's active to and passes in false. And we set this Boolean weapon active to be false as well. Basically, weapon active is a Boolean that just says, do we have a weapon in our hand? And if, say, weapon active was true, like it's using a fire current weapon method, so if weapon active is true, then we call in-hand.fireWeapon. And I think it's used there? No? Okay, no, it's not used anywhere else. And likewise, when we're calling switch to pistol or switch to main, we set weapon active to be true. And back to play health. And finally, our method for disabling health items. So, like we can disable the current weapon when we are switching to a health item, when we are switching to a weapon, we want to disable the actual health items in our hand. So, if pills equipped is true, then we set the builds object to be inactive, and we set builds equipped to false. And likewise, if health equipped is true, we set health objects to be false, inactive, and set health equipped to be false. Okay, so on our player input script, we've got one new variable. We basically just got a reference to the player health controller, or player health script, sorry, and that's just initialized in awake. And the main change is, where is it? Here. So, well, actually, there's a couple of changes, so I'll just go over them all. Like I should, because it's a tutorial. Yeah, sorry. So first off, we have references here to the disable health items method that I've just gone over in the player help script. This is for when we are on either 0, so if we're switching to the pistol, or 1 when we're switching to the primary weapon that the player has. And basically that just makes sure that we don't have an item in our hand when we're holding a gun. And likewise, remember last episode when we were talking about how the scrolling works, so it like cycles between 4 and 0 and then increments or decrements based on the direction the scroll wheel is done. So here, if the item index value is 2, then that is switching to pain pills. So if we do have pain pills on us, then we call player weapon script.disable current weapon, which I just showed you. Player health.disable health items, just in case we were scrolling up from 3 and we don't want to have the health kit and the pain pills active at the same time. And we call player health.set pain pills. And pretty much identically to this, if item index value is 3, then if the player has a health kit, we do the same. So we disable the current weapon, disable the health items, and then set it to be holding the health kit. And we have a spare space here for our throwable, which will be maybe next time. I might just move on to the zombies because they seem like a more vital part of the gameplay loop of Left 4 Dead than actual throwables. But yeah. Next up, we have our use health item method. So that is just called from update here even. What this does is if we have a player health kit, the ph.health equipped is true. So if the player has a health kit in their hand, if we hold down the right click button, it will call the heal up method, which will count down the health timer from 4 to 0. And once that's up, it will call the heal method, like increasing the health and taking away the player's health kit and whatnot. Otherwise, if the player lets go of the method, then it calls the heal timer reset. So that just says, all right, we've given up trying to heal. We will just not heal, basically. And identically for pills, if you hold down right click, it calls ph.pillup. And otherwise it just calls the timer reset. And also if you press Q, it calls the ph.pickup item. Pardon me. Yeah, so that's that for player input script. I think that might be it, actually. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, I've covered the weapon active, covered the health, covered the item monitor and pain pills. So yeah, that was pretty much it for Left 4 Dead style health. So if you got any queries or anything really, just leave them in the comments. Check me out on Patreon, which is in the description as well, and my Game Loud or Quiet, which will also be in the description. And you know, it's on Steam. It's on sale actually. It's part of the weekly deal this week. So if you want it cheap, go buy it. And yeah, cheers for watching and goodbye.